Yeah, although I've had a lot of success the other way too. You know, bringing talent in areas where you can't get your organization, where there's no interest from your organization, like if they aren't naturally inclined to develop in those areas, and no one's doing it, and you can clearly see that something needs to be done. Bringing in, some talent from the outside is really great. But I've also seen positions where we've continued to fill the talent from the outside that we've been unsuccessful, and we weren't successful until we promoted someone from within. So, there's not really one, but I'd just say more so I'm always looking to hire from within, especially for positions that are customer facing. So customer-facing positions, those are positions that are a lot more on the line every day. You're really you're standing up and representing the company, and I prefer to make those investments in people that I can reliably sort of predict how they will handle different things that come into the business because I've watched it over and over and over. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, so that leads me to another thing. One thing that I've been learning through my own personal entrepreneurial journey is that a lot of successful people say they hire more on a person's personality more than just on their skill set alone, just because skills can be taught. But as you mentioned, with people that are in customer-facing roles, a lot more things that you can't teach them. Is that something, or have you always just gone on experience and skills?
No, I'd say I've made every bad decision related to talent. And one of them is to hire based on, thinking that I could develop someone into a position and them not actually having experience that demonstrates that they can do the job. And I've been repeatedly criticized for doing that over 15 years. I do that time after time. Oh, we can just develop that person. But when it works, it's beautiful, So, and it's worked a lot. So I just say that there isn't really one rule over another. We find with certain positions that it's no matter what work we put into hiring those decisions, the hiring decisions, it's still a crapshoot whether or not they're going to be good or not. That's like in the accounting positions or in the sales positions or various positions we find are particularly like that, where no matter what sort of reputation this person has coming into the business, you can't necessarily sort of count on it until you see it in action. That's what we've learned. Maybe it's different for other people. Keep going?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've talked about celebrating the journey, mastering your fears. We talked about the Bootstrap model. What's next? Focus and efficiency. Okay. That's at the heart of bootstrapping, right? So that actually, believe it or not, that is the lesson that I'm learning right now. Because we are in a really difficult economic climate for our business right now. And we're learning that we can't simply just buy everything, and succeed. That we need to be very particular about what we buy and when we buy it and, how we utilize it once we have it. So, otherwise you have a system that is maybe less focused, so it doesn't provide the competitive strengths when put up against something that's more focused, or simply you're just more expensive, which in a competitive environment makes a really big difference, and people don't talk about it enough. But at the end of the day, the strategy of keeping your costs as low as humanly possible is a winning strategy. And that's what's so beautiful about bootstrapping, is that it's really, at least in my mind, it's like, but one of the things that bootstrapping means to me is that you have to make more out of the resources that you have than you start with, basically. Or oftentimes we talk about making something out of nothing, or making two out of one, or whatever it is. It's like, the ability to do that requires that you are very focused around, particular strengths that you bring to the marketplace, and very efficient about delivering those strengths. So, efficient both from a time standpoint and also from a cost standpoint. It's like, you don't need to be putting $100,000. If you have employees who are salaried at $80,000 or $100,000, you don't put them on a job that you have someone who can do the job for $50,000 on. If you're putting those kinds of people on those jobs, you're not being as efficient as you can be. So you always need to be looking at the cost efficiencies of the business and focusing people's times in the areas where they're going to demand the most premium sort of price for the time that they're putting in. Now I'm speaking again from a service business perspective. I mean, it's different in many ways, I'm sure, from, if you're selling products. But oftentimes I'm selling, people's hours. So that's, from a, I talk about being strategic with limited resources, but, more so than that, it's the details that matter. And again, one of my just Achilles heels, because I love to glaze over the details, I mean, when I start getting into the details, I move on. Because I can't, handle them. But if you don't take care of the details, you leave a lot of loose ends. Or to say it differently, a lot of little things add up to make a big difference. So you look at, the key things like, price or I kind of lost my train of thought. But really, just look at all the touch points where you're interacting with people. And always look for a way where you can sort of do something that is maybe just an edge up from the normal experience. And this ties back to what I've been doing with the ATX equation. See, what we learned early on is that, I always call it polish. When we would show, our work product was showing up on a trade show floor back in 1994, and we would show up before the trade show, and we would gather around where our work was going to be, showed off, and we would, polish it. Make sure that when people looked at it, it was, as beautiful as humanly possible, so that, there was no doubt when they saw that they were going to, be in awe. And, I sort of translate that into every, into my business now, into every interaction that someone has with my business. I want it to be delightful. I want it to exceed their expectations. So that's where the details matter. It requires that you really be thoughtful about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then one more point around focus and efficiency is customer. If I was going to focus on anything, it would be our client. But we're a client-driven organization. We're not necessarily as much market-driven as we are client-driven, or at least for the first 15 years. I think we're right at the stage of transitioning into more market-driven company. But what made us through the first 15 years is focusing on our specific customer and their individual needs, and making sure that they were met on a regular basis. And that I go around, I think it's a pretty big claim to go around and say, hey, as a president of the business, that I ensure total customer satisfaction. So what does that mean, total customer satisfaction?